Hello, boys and girls. It's Mrs. Vernetti and Mrs. Farrell. We are back and we are excited to share with you another Which One Doesn't Belong. Let me share my screen so you can all see it. And then let's see what you notice.
Ooh.
Which one doesn't belong? There are 4 pictures, and each picture does not match the others for a specific reason. There's something about 3 that are the same, and then 1 doesn't match. So before we start with the which one doesn't belong, Mrs. Farrell, I think it does help for us to just look and see what we notice. And if you, as you're sharing what you notice, if you do say, oh, this doesn't belong because, then go ahead and fill it in. What do you notice?
Well, I noticed that these are all fractions. There are 3 fractions in each box.
Uh-huh.
I noticed that they are, I actually have a, which one doesn't belong?
Good, tell me right away, that's awesome.
Okay, the first one I realized does not belong because it's the only set of fractions that have different denominators. So if you look, the first box, they have denominators of 4, 6, and 64 for that set, whereas all of the fractions in the second box are ninths, and then the bottom left are fifths, and then the bottom right are sixteenths.
So, Mrs. Farrell, that's amazing because I was totally looking at my benchmarks and I didn't even notice that those 3 had common denominators except for that first box. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Can I share with you one that's just really quick for me that I see?
Yes, absolutely.
I'm noticing down here, there's something that looks a little weird because there's a decimal in the numerator of this fraction 2.2 and 5/10 fifths, which is really 2.5 fifths. And I sometimes, when I'm doing math with students, I will let them put decimals in there, but then we find a way to get rid of the decimal just so that the numerator is a whole number. So I would say that this bottom left doesn't belong because it's the only one that has a fractional numerator.
Yeah, that makes it a little trickier, doesn't it?
It does, definitely.
Okay.
Let's keep looking.
So I did notice something about the top right.
Okay.
So the top right to me looks like those fractions are going in descending order, meaning they're starting with the largest fraction and then getting smaller and smaller. I believe every other set has the smallest fraction listed first, and then they're going up. So from least to greatest.
Okay.
The second one has greatest to least.
And what would it be called? What's the opposite of descending order?
Ascending.
Ascending order. So
Yeah.
you would say that these 3 are listed in ascending order and this top right one is listed in descending order.
Right.
Boys and girls, as we've been sharing, have you found anything that you're noticing about these sets of fractions? Which one do you think doesn't belong? Now, you may have a different reason why this one doesn't belong, not because of the common denominators, or a different reason why this one does. Go ahead and pause the video so that you can get rid of us talking for a moment and take a good look at those pictures. And then think of a reason why you think one of them does not belong. And then you can share it with somebody at home, and then you can unpause the video and we'll keep talking. Okay, welcome back. Mrs. Farrell, did you find anything else? I've got a couple of other things I'm noticing, but.
Oh, you go ahead. Take your turn.
So I'm thinking that this one doesn't belong. You said it's the only one that's descending order. But again, remember how I said at the beginning, I was thinking about my benchmark fractions. Benchmark fractions are those fractional numbers that we can see and know that help us to see what's around them. And I'm looking here and I'm seeing that this middle fraction is 8/16, which is really what, boys and girls? 8 out of 16 is really 1/2. And then I'm looking down here at this one and I'm noticing 2.5 fifths, which again is a weird one, but 2.5 is half of 5. So that middle fraction is also 1/2. And if you look over here, 8/16 again is also 1/2. But check it out here. up here, boys and girls, in this top right, the ones that are descending order, 2/9 is smaller than 1/2. And so I'm thinking that this one doesn't belong because it's the only one that doesn't have a 1/2.
Not only that, but all of those fractions are less than 1/2.
Oh, yes, that's right. They are.
Every other one has at least half and then a greater one. So all the other three sets have one that's closest to the 0 benchmark, one that's to half, and then one that would be more than half.
Yeah. And also, now that we're talking about that 0 benchmark, did you notice that in these three, they all start with a unit fraction?
Mm-hmm.
But this one, so sorry, my mouse is sensitive. This one actually has a unit fraction in it. It's just at the end instead of the beginning. So we've mentioned why this one doesn't fit, and we've mentioned why this one doesn't fit, and we've mentioned why this one doesn't fit. What do you think about this one? Why might this one not belong, Mrs. Farrell?
I believe that one does not belong because if you look at those fractions, 1/16 is less than a whole, 8/16 is less than 1 whole, but 64/16 is greater than 1 whole. And that is the only fraction on this entire image that is greater than 1 whole. So I think that one doesn't belong because it includes a fraction that is greater than 1.
I love that thinking. You're right. And that means that we could possibly turn this into a mixed number. All the other ones are a fraction less than 1.
Mm-hmm.
Now, boys and girls, when you're a math teacher and you do this an awful lot, your brain likes to figure out what that mixed number is. But I'm going to tell you something. It actually isn't going to turn into a mixed number because 16 divides evenly into 64. So this actually, if we were to convert it, would just turn into a whole number. Can you figure out what that whole number would be? I hope you can. Thank you so much for joining us for this fraction version of Which One Doesn't Belong. We hope that you continue to do those number sense routines to keep your brain sharp. Take care.
Thanks, Bernetti. Good luck, boys and girls.